Welcome to the GPLama YouTube channel, and coming up in this video today, a behind the scenes look or a small peek into the world's largest manufacturer of smart trainers, among other things. Now, if you haven't heard of Magene before, you probably soon will, because their brand is on the rise. They manufacture a wide range of cycling products that I cover here on the channel and that I have a keen interest in. They also manufacture for a number of other well-known brands too. Now, last month I was invited over to their new headquarters in Qingdao. Joe from China Cycling, also the founder and owner of Panda Podium, was also there doing videos on the new headquarters and also meeting with the founder and CTO. So I took the opportunity to fly over and meet with the teams behind a lot of the products that I've covered here, and also to shadow Joe for his headquarters tour. Now, he'll be publishing a video on this too. I'll link below. Definitely worth a watch over on the China Cycling channel. Now, a bit of background on Magene before we get into things. They cover things like smart trainers. As I've mentioned, they're the world's largest manufacturer of smart trainers. Power meters, something I love. Accessories such as heart rate monitors, lights, the L508 radar, bike computers, the XR carbon wheel sets, and TPU tubes. There's also been a few new products we've seen at Eurobike this year, including their wireless road group set, that's coming soon. Power meter pedals for the China market only, but coming soon elsewhere. The C506 bike computer, the XR 2025 wheel set, and there's a few more things on the horizon that I really want to get my hands on to have a look at those when they are released. Just over 7 years ago, I did my first factory tour with Tax in the Netherlands, and it was really eye-opening to see what goes into the manufacturing processes of some of this cycling tech that we use. I've since been to a few more factories, and I can confirm the Magene headquarters was the newest and most impressive to date. And I say to date because I'll always leave the door open to be even more impressed in the future. All right, let's have a look at what I saw over there.
So the first thing we had to look at wasn't their T600 smart trainer, it was their QED electronic shifting kit, which is probably going to be referred to as the Magene wireless road group set. Now, this can be configured with either hydraulic or rim brake configurations, and also configurable for 10 to 12 speed support. Magene claim around 2,500 kilometers of use between battery charges, a front derailleur change time of 300 milliseconds, and a rear derailleur change time of 90 milliseconds. Now, similar to the current model Shimano Di2 road group sets, it has a single battery configuration for both the front and rear derailleurs, with the battery being in the seat post. Here's a closer look at the front derailleur, which is always interesting to have a look at how they get around certain patents in the road group set space, and a closer look at the rear derailleur too. The hoods, or levers, have auxiliary buttons on the inside which you can assign to certain functions depending on how you have that configured with your bike computer. A close up there of the buttons, easily accessible with your thumb. Now, the size and shape of these levers are very much similar to Shimano Di2, and in the hand, probably indistinguishable, to be honest. Magene are also producing their own hydraulic disc brake calipers for this group set. So I think the only thing missing is the chain and the cassette for this to be a complete QED group set. When it comes to power meters, Magene have one of the most complete ranges of power meter types, being crank-based, spider-based, and also pedal-based, these being the P705 pedal-based power meters. These will be coming to the rest of the world very soon in the form of the P715, and have some striking resemblance to a very similar power meter pedal with a different platform, obviously. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to take a pair of these back to the Lama lab to put them through their paces. However, when the 715 model comes out and they're available globally, I'll be doing just that, so stay tuned. Now, what was in my hand there was a finished product. Here is how it gets to that stage. On screen is the automatic strain gauge bonding machine, and Magene claimed to be the first brand to independently develop automatic bonding technology for curved strain gauges in the world. And the end results, ready for the battery, the pods, and calibration. Now, one thing I've always wondered is how they properly calibrate power meter pedals in a factory, and this is one such machine, or machines, that Magene use. They're in Qingdao, with the engineer carefully threading the pedal onto the machine here. Now, if you're wondering how they torque them down, you'll see that in just a few moments. And that's done from the rear of the pedal. So a very interesting machine they've got set up here for the calibration process. Alrighty, from here, the machine is turned on and you can see the hanging weights. Now, that's increased from 0 through to 80 kilograms through this process. And it's done at 360 degrees. You can see the spindle turning there. So not just one single static point Now these power meters are claimed plus or minus 1% for accuracy. Now given how much time I spend with power meters and testing power meters and writing power meters, installing power meters and diagnosing problems with power meters, I could have been here all day playing around with this equipment. Luckily for them, I wasn't allowed to touch the equipment, but it's something I'd love to have in the Llama lab. To be brutally honest, it'd save my legs having to perform similar tests with my own legs. These temperature calibration machines test from 50 degrees Celsius all the way down to negative 20 degrees Celsius. Over to the spider-based power meters, the P505 and P505 base, still being made by hand here by the engineer in the factory. Now these tested extremely well, exceeding all expectations in the Llama lab, especially for the price point. And here's a quick look at the calibration of those units as they're being produced. You'll also note the sensors on the inside of the crank arm there, I guess as a second or third point of measurement for this calibration process. Quickly reviewing my records, over on the DC Rainmaker analysis tool, I have 85 comparative data sets with P505 power meters. And just as an example here is the P505 base up against the Dorado XR and performing extremely well for this Llama lab test, including the sprints, steady states, overs and unders, right here, all looking pretty good up against that trainer there with the numbers, flywheel speed test, ramp test, and just riding along. They are all within specifications, except the flywheel speed test here, but that's more of a trainer thing than the actual power meter. So the P505 base exceeded expectations. I'll cover the product testing and development a little later in the video, but I just wanted to put a quick capture of how those spider-based power meters and crank sets were tested there in the factory. Now this is putting 1800 Newton meters through the cranks up to 150,000 times. The machine here showing that data 50,000 times as they stop at every 50,000 cycles to check. When it comes to all things smart trainers, there is a lot going on at the Magene factory. The raw materials all lined up here ready to go for a number of different models of trainers. The cutting and preparation. For safety reasons, we weren't allowed too close to the machines with our cameras, but I did sneak a quick glimpse of this automatic welding machine in operation. They did, however, switch this one on without the welding part turned on, so it was interesting to watch this robot do its thing. But wait, stop the press, or this machine. Joe has just sent over this video that he took with a GoPro later on with the welding machines turned on. I could watch these all day. Absolutely fascinating machines. And thanks to Joe for this additional footage too. Once everything is welded up, it's over to the powder coating process, which is quite the machine in itself. Everything being loaded onto the giant coat hangers and sent on its way through the system. When it comes to the quality and the durability of the powder coating process you're seeing here, Magene have a salt spray lab test they perform. You'll see that a little later in the video, where any of these components will easily pass over 168 hours of exposure without any corrosion whatsoever. Here is what goes in, and here is what comes out. Another thing I wasn't expecting to see was the attention to detail put into the balancing of the flywheels. Now here's a few thousand flywheels. I did say they're the world's largest manufacturer of smart trainers. Sitting here waiting to be balanced or certified. Now if you have an unbalanced flywheel, you'll get vibrations, it'll be a bad ride experience, it's noisy. They put a lot of work into making sure these things are absolutely spot on. So here's, again, the robots in action. Placing the flywheel down for the finished turning process. Now this is just prior to it being installed into another machine where the flywheel will be spun up at very, very high RPM, measured and then modified to ensure it is perfectly balanced. And here's that modification taking place right here as per its measured specification. And here is the end result, perfectly balanced flywheels. On the day of filming, the T600 was the smart trainer on this production line here. And something quite interesting with the T600 design is that the outer shell on one side acts as a giant heat sink to dissipate heat from the resistance unit. You can see there it's a full metal case on the drive side, I believe. Yeah, interesting stuff. Anyway, when it comes to the resistance unit, here is the inside resistance unit that doesn't turn. Might look familiar. And that's also coupled with the outer side, which is this part here, which is technically the flywheel. Now, when put together, it is verified, certified, checked before being lined up and installed into that casing. Once assembled, each unit is put through a calibration and certification test using, well, their equivalent to the Llama lab test. Now, I can't show you the exact protocol they use for their Llama lab test, but I can confirm these devices get extremely hot with the tests they put them through. Another thing of note, with this testing process, they make use of the wired Ethernet port to control the trainer, so there's no issues with wireless and wireless protocols in a busy industrial environment. Now, when walking around a factory with so much going on, there's always something interesting to pick up on. And speaking of picking up things, here is a solid chunk of aluminium that, when machined, becomes a chainring. Here's half of the job done, and here is the rest of the process being completed by the CNC machine. The end result being the QED Chainrings. Now over to the R&D lab at Magene to have a look at some of their custom-built testing machines, which are used for research and development, but also testing their existing products. Now here's a look at a similar machine we've seen previously in the video, testing those crank arms, the chain rings, the spiders, up to 1800 Newton meters at 3 intervals of 50,000 cycles. Onto a brutal drop test of one of their head units, and they were dropping them from all different angles. Onto Sir Cranks-a-Lot, or Lance Crankstrong, or whatever they want to call this, which didn't really have the smoothest pedal stroke, but was putting out a few watts there into the trainer. Another custom machine here, a motor fatigue testing machine with the T600, I believe. Trainer fatigue testing machine. I was quite interested to see how they set this up, allowing for multiple trainers to be mounted at the same time to be run through a set of testing protocols. All products are put through temperature and humidity testing on the bake here today. Not cookies, they were C506s or C606s. Next up, some UV testing of, we have some chain rings and some more bike computers in there being baked under UV lights. Onto another room where we should have brought along some fish and chips for lunch, the Salt Spray Laboratory. Now, they really did have machines for everything, including this quad button press testing machine. They also had a vibration machine to, you can probably just see, well, it's hard to capture these vibrating at higher frequencies, to test the mounts. And the last thing to have a look at today is some precision measurement equipment that they say goes down to an accuracy of 1.4 micrometers, so 1/7 the width of a human hair. And this level of precision is typically seen in aviation, military, and medical devices. So no shortcuts when it comes to making bicycle technology either, with the equipment they have there at the Magene factory.
Okay, so what I can't show you in this video is the size and volume of their total output there in Qingdao. It's a lot more than what I could capture or more accurately, what I was allowed to capture. Also, their upcoming products, I couldn't show you those. Magene have a few things in the pipeline that I'm very keen to review here on the channel, so stay tuned for those. Now, my takeouts from a few days there in Qingdao, the scale of the operation, it is big, the global reach with the products that they produce, both their own and for others, and their testing, the QA and QC, and their customized machines were very interesting to observe, especially how they test those cranks with Sir Cranks-a-Lot. And a few of the other machines they had there on site were quite interesting, including their smart trainer testing rigs. It's something I'd love to have here in the Llama Lab. It'd definitely save my legs. And then there was the manufacturing being mostly on site. Now this allows product teams to design, test, redesign, all within walking distance, and never too far from the CNC machines. Now there's pros and cons to that, but not having to wait weeks for a test and redesign to come back to perform further testing is a good thing. And also the security and technology there at the headquarters. Facial recognition at the gate, facial recognition at the doors. That place is locked down tight. Oh, and while I was there, they also saw that I'd passed 200,000 subscribers here on YouTube and presented me with this, a cake. Everybody loves cake. Okay, as mentioned, I'll link below to Joe's video of his headquarter tour, where it digs a little deeper into some of the processes that we've seen today. Now, thanks again to Magene for opening their doors for the tour, and I look forward to reviewing a few of the new products that I've seen they have on the horizon for both indoors and out. Thanks for watching.